through the process of trying to figure out how do I get loans and scholarships to be able to attend. And it's quite a few years ago now, but so nice to see just like yesterday. And so I wish you well. In terms of the actual policy issues, one of the keys is to have the most efficient and fair and cheap student loans as possible. And we went through the process of switching to direct lending last year, which produces far lower costs. And then we directed those savings into additional Pell Grants. I think it's about $40 billion in additional Pell Grants. And those grants take a big chunk out of the cost, but we certainly don't cover it all. That covers the entire tuition of private schools. We are the first generation of parents whose children are starting to get less education than we got. This fact should give pause to all of us, because we are in a worldwide economy, a knowledge economy, where if we are less educated, our children are less educated, they are going to have few opportunities, our economy is going to be less successful. And the cost of college has been outpacing the increase in scholarships. That's why I was very pleased with the additional emphasis on Pell Grants to assist low-income kids. There's also a state component of this in terms of this Philomath usage that we're not thinking about applying to the public school, but to try to keep the tuition at public schools affordable. And Sarah, do you want to comment? At all on the state and the challenge of state tuition being affordable?
Sure. So clearly, affordability of state tuition is a huge challenge in our universities. And one of the things that we are working on in legislative session is to really free up each of our universities and better use of the tuition that goes to each of those campuses. Right now, the universities have to come to the legislature to get approval to spend all of the tuition dollars that come into that. And we want to make sure that when you come to Oregon State University, that you learn to that they won't do that. And you pay that tuition over Oregon State, they are able to make the best use of that. The other thing we're working on doing is making sure that credit can transfer more easily from institution to institution, so that students pursuing a four-year degree can utilize the community college system and getting some of those basic fundamental lower-level courses before they move on to the four-year institution. But that is one of the most critical things we can do, as well as improve our investment in higher education. That is slipped for far too long and it's time to reverse that for all of the reasons that we've said.
So great question, and we're going to keep fighting this battle both at the state level and the federal level. And with that, we'll ask Eileen to read 2 or 3 numbers, and we don't have to go in the exact order, but if you have the number, please stand up and get to the microphone. Let us know which number so we can retire it, and also if you can share your name and what community you come from, that'd be helpful.
470 and 471.
Judge 471 over here, probably lost 470.
We'll come to you. We'll come to you in just a moment.
Senator, thank you for coming to Philomath. I'm a resident of Philomath. My name is Claire Reimers. I'm also a professor at Oregon State University, and I had the honor of meeting you at the Hatfield Science Center a few months ago, so thank you also for coming up there. You touched on the subject that's near and dear to my heart, which is alternative energy and reasons for going to it, because probably one of the most critical issues I think this country faces and the world faces is moving away from our dependence on fossil fuels because of the effects of carbon dioxide on global warming and ocean acidification. So, again, you did touch on this, but it seems to me that we don't really hear much about what's happening in Washington to move us away from this dependency. So maybe you could say some more things. And then I often hear that part of the issue is that we do subsidize oil and gas industry quite heavily, and if instead we were subsidizing alternative energy, we could move there much faster. So maybe you could comment on that.
Sure, you bet. Thank you very much, Claire. I'm happy to comment a little bit more about it. And I mentioned the economic dimensions of American energy and national security dimensions. Let me dwell just a little bit more on the environmental dimension, which is one of the best estimates we have of a sustainable level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is 350 parts per million. There is a website called 350.org to emphasize this number. And at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, we were at about 270 parts per million. And I'm sorry to report that we're now at 390, and we are growing by 2 parts per million per year. And only about 15 years ago, we were growing at 1 part per million a year. In other words, the curve is going like this, and we really have to completely level it off. And that's why it's important to be part of this conversation from an environmental perspective as well. I think our college students really get this. When I speak on college campuses, it's the top issue of concern. But we don't have time to wait for our college students to become our leaders, so it's important that we wrestle with this now. When I laid out this plan, it's called Merkley over a barrel. I've been talking to the administration about laying out a 20-year plan to greatly reduce our dependence on oil, and I didn't get any enthusiasm there, so I said, well, I'll lay one out. So this is available on our website too, and it addresses a number of things, but you can recognize we use a good share of our oil in freight transportation, about a third, and about a third in car transportation. So we can take on both of those. We have on the car side the possibility, the real possibility now, with hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and electric cars. I just went to a car show that had about 7 different electric cars that are either just on the market or on the market in limited amounts or about to be deployed in larger numbers in both in the lead. And people often say, well, you still have to produce electricity. Yes, we do. However, a good share of the country has surplus electricity. My partner on electric cars is Lamar Alexander. It's a bipartisan effort. And he points out that in his part of the world, their nuclear reactors do not have electricity potential utilized at night. They have surplus. So they could actually power up virtually all the cars without any additional electrical generation. So it's like free wasted energy we harness right now to replace oil. On the freight side, we have a nonprofit called Cascade Sierra that has brought together a lot of technologies that improve freight efficiency. And for example, strap-on generators, so truck drivers don't idle, run the diesel motors to keep their instruments lit up when they're stopped. Airfoils that greatly improve mileage. Automatic tire inflation, which greatly improves mileage, and so forth. We do have a plan from Keegan Pickens about taking some of our natural gas resources and converting trucks over. Every truck we can convert over is equal to converting 25 cars to electricity. And the natural gas, not only is it here in America, keep it generated. So it's a step in the right direction. Meanwhile, if we switch from more freight to rail, we have a huge leap in efficiency. There were folks going around Capitol Hill with a pin, I think it said 457. Is that right?
450.
Something like that. It kept changing. They keep getting slightly different estimates. And of course, the idea of wearing that pin was to get you to say, okay, what does 457 stand for? And it is the number of miles that a single gallon will propel a ton of freight on a railroad line. You just think about it. That's an enormously efficient transportation mode compared to truck haul. Anyway, so we've got a lot of work to do, and this I'm just mentioning a few of the many ideas that we put our minds and hearts together. And sir, I think you're...
So I'm Steve Merrill, Goodness County here, and you asked a question on energy. near and dear to my heart, so I want to skip on to the next one. I'd just like you to share, the defense spending always makes the headlines and highlights because it takes such a large part of the budget. Could you share some of your thoughts on the defense spending and the future direction?
Sure, you bet. National security is a major responsibility of the federal government, but I do believe that there is a lot we can do that sustains our national security and reduces our military expenditures. And let me just start by saying we need to end the war in Afghanistan and bring our sons and daughters home. I might just expand on that for a moment. But before I do, let me say there's a host of programs that the Pentagon has said that they do not want, they do not need, but Congress keeps trying to reauthorize them because they're funded, they have a strategy. They map out all the folks who are on the key committees, the Armed Services Committee and the Appropriations Committee, and they put subcomponents of those large weapon systems